More medications, less health. Something's broken. Traditional medicine manages symptoms, but true healing addresses root cause. I'm Josh Rimany, pharmacist turned healer. At Beyond the Pills, we merge ancient wisdom with modern-day science to inspire you through stories of transformation, practical trainings, and holistic healing. Join me and other practitioners as we guide you towards vibrant health, body, mind, and spirit, and move beyond symptom management into true healing. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Beyond the Pills, where we explore transformative journeys, wellness practices, and the path to just simply authentic healing. I am Josh Rimany, your host, pharmacist turned healer. And today we truly have a special guest joining us, Bobby Wade. Bobby is a dedicated student of all ancestral plant medicines, ceremonies, indigenous ways of life. As a Sundancer, water protector, veteran, father, and coach, Bobby brings ancient wisdom with modern living, offering a unique perspective on how we can honor and preserve these traditions. Bobby's mission is to be dedicated and inspire and educate, shedding light on the importance of integrating plant medicines with respect and mindfulness, staying true to indigenous cultures.
Thank you for having me, Josh.
Oh man, we got a lot in common. Ancient wisdom meets modern science, protecting indigenous ways, plant medicine, even your Substack. The name of the Substack resonates with my life. So just can you share a little bit about your journey and what led you to immerse yourself in the ancestral plant medicines in this indigenous way of life?
Yeah, sure. Well, my name's Bobby Wade, and I was born in Australia. My ancestors are from Scotland, Ireland, and Scandinavia. I joined the Australian Army when I was 17 years old, and that led me to be serving in Afghanistan at the age of 21, 2007, 2008. I got back from that tour of duty, and there's very little support for soldiers, especially in the modern era of, theater or warfare, dealing with PTSD. And a lot of those things can be kind of like suppressed and kept thrown in the wardrobe somewhere. I ended up discharging from the army and found myself in South America in 2010. I was on kind of a bit of an escape tour, just trying to forget everything and move on. I was 23 at the time, and I ended up arriving in Colombia. And through friends of a friend, we met this healer, this medicine man, and we ended up drinking jahe, or as it's commonly known, ayahuasca. But in Colombia and Ecuador, it's known as jahe. And that was the point which, everything kind of started to change in my life. That was in 2010. From there, I returned to Australia and had a few years there. And I moved back to Colombia in 2014, and I founded one of the first plant medicine centers called the Eagle Condor Alliance. Our mission, although we were a plant medicine center, our mission was to protect the jungle, protect the medicine, and support our elders. So I was in a direct partnership with indigenous healers, and we worked to help people. People come down and heal on different levels, but we would buy up land in the jungle. We would plant medicine. We would, send help to our elders every month. Mm-hmm. So I kind of was thrown in the deep end with that, where I was drinking these large quantities of medicine and different plants, San Pedro, Wachuma, peyote, jopo, working with coca leaf and tobacco, mushrooms, sweat lodges, vision quest, sundancers, just kind of thrown in the deep end, and kind of had to learn as I went. And, we were able to assist or facilitate in the healing of about 700 people in our existence as a retreat center. It was a very good learning curve in terms of how to help people, and at the same time, how to keep things real and keep things on the ground in terms of supporting elders and staying in touch with those indigenous ways. So I did that for 10 years. We started we were basically living in this semi-urban environment. So we had all these houses. We just kept grabbing the house that came available next door to the other houses. And we had a Maloka in the healer's backyard, and he'd been established there for about 15 years. So it was quite known that he was doing medicine there. And then from there, we got some funding and we purchased a piece of land, which is about 28 hectares. It was like 70 acres. And so during COVID, we went out to this piece of land and started working it. Me and my wife and our firstborn child, we lived in a tent for 11 months and had no road, no electricity. And we built this road and kind of established a footprint on this land and got this center up and going. Then I just realized I needed to go home for a bit, reconnect to where I was born and connect back to my roots in Australia. So I went back to Australia and I started working for Heroic Hearts Project in the US and also in Australia. And it's a nonprofit that's focused on getting veterans help through psychedelic therapies with plant medicines or assisted therapies. So I started working with them as a coach, started a podcast, way of life, and just all these new kind of avenues or projects came into my life. And yeah, now I'm back in Colombia.
It's amazing. A lot to unpack there, but we're seeing this just emergence. And I love that when we connected or before our podcast, it was really important because we have the same philosophies. Like I've been to the South Americas. I've gone through my own transformative journeys with ayahuasca and other plants. And it was really important for me not only to experience it from this indigenous practice, but also you and I are both connected in this space of we're very important to preserve, right? Preserve the essence and the way of life, the way of being, that these aren't just psychedelics and they fix you. Like there's a whole connection to nature and doing it right. And you journeyed through that process. You didn't just go, like you apprenticed with all these medicines and all these healers and doing it right. And I really wanted to put some emphasis on that because it is in this new age we're in, we're bridging the gap of modern science with ancient wisdom, but at the same time, it's really critical and important for this not to go by the wayside of the modern philosophy only, right? Going through this and, big pharma and all these things grabbing, oh, here's just another drug that's going to mess with your head and it's going to fix you. Like there's so much more than the medicine. It's this process that we take and this practice of honoring our ancestors and honoring this way. Like for the example of this with the listeners is, the way and manner in which you are conferred upon, because it's more of a calling, right, from them. It's not this, oh, I go to school and I learn it. It's this process that they're called to do the work. They're apprenticing for very long periods of time, sometimes decades, just to be able to have the honor to present the medicines in this way because there is such a connection with nature. So talk from your perspective, talk to people a little bit about the ancestral way, like the way and manner in which this process, because it's very, you're from Australia, I'm speaking from the West world here in America, right? People don't really realize how much in touch they need to be with that side of things because it's very different from our upbringing.
I think the first thing to say is the reason why there's a lot of issues in the world right now is because we're so disconnected from nature.
I agree.
And one of the things I hear a lot is, native, non-native, indigenous, non-indigenous. Now, you may be non-native to the lands that you live in, but you're native to some part of the world. And us as, people, ancestrally, we've lost a lot of that connection because our ancestors decided to move countries or the system got to them before it got to the Americas or before it got to Australia. That's not to downplay things that are happening right now with indigenous groups around the world, but there has been a complete loss of connection to who we really are. And there's a necessity to come back to that connection and understand that when you have these plants, when you have these plant medicine, you're entering into someone else's culture, right? And it's important to recognize that, but at the same time, understand that you have your own culture, your own ancestry, and you can find that. And one of the best ways I find is every day just connecting with nature, going outside, forming a dialogue with the environment that you live in, because that's how indigenous people live. It's not a transactionary kind
Mhm.
where you go and
Right.
you get something back. It's a constant give and take. Or in the fact that people who live in these parts of the world, it's a constant giving. They're giving to Mother Earth. They're always praying, giving offerings, observing how nature's working, what's going on in the territories, observing with the medicine, how the medicine's working, what are they seeing. A lot of people go down and have medicine and think, well, that's it. I'm going to go home and I'm just going to be good. I'm going to integrate it in the middle of New York City. And that's not really what needs to happen. What needs to happen is we need to understand, like, look, I'm also from the earth and I have indigenous ways of being, and I need to find that connection. And the easiest way is connect to water, connect to the earth, connect to the fire, connect to the wind or to the air. So walk on the earth, barefoot, be in the sun, light a fire, connect to that fire, drink water and breathe well. There's the four kind of simplest ways that we can start to establish more of a connection with ourselves and ancestry.
Yeah. Well, you hit the nail there. Like it's all about, how do you connect to the earth or what are the earth elements, right? It's like really that simple. And I believe too. And when I went through my journeys and when I go through journeys, there's always this innate there's a beautiful part to the plant medicines that automatically connect you in certain beautiful, profound ways, right? You can't ignore it. And if you're in the right set and setting, and we know a lot of people understand what that means if they're into plant medicines with the set and setting. And why you've emphasized the importance of honoring these traditions when working with the medicines, but why is it so critical, especially in today's world? Because they're disconnected? Is there something else in there? Like, what's your thought on that?
I think because they hold a lot of the keys for how we're going to evolve. I think
Yeah,
it's,
it's the how. It's the how, right? Yeah.
it's the how.
I agree. When you have this what and why, like we are, our consciousness is changing, humanity is changing, and people sense it, even if you're not really connected into the woo woo world, right? It's like we know that there's these big shifts changing in our like AI and all these other things, but it's not technology; it's the way that we're working through it. Um, and that's talk to you mentioned Sundancer and water protector. I'm not sure people really understand what that is, but I want to hear it because this is part of this process. And how are these practices, how have they shaped your day to day and your approach to life and coaching?
Because Sundance is the ceremony that comes from the nations from
Mhm.
North America. We have elders that come down here and run those ceremonies, and it's a ceremony of prayer. I'll be the first to say, with all humility, I don't know too much about it. Even one of my spiritual uncles, he's danced for 40 years, and he's like, I really don't even know what it's about yet, And that's a
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. I think people want to like analytical. They want to just go like, what is that? It's like, no, it's like you kind of just it's it's what ever unfolds, right? It's this unfolding of things. But from your perspective, if somebody had to ask you in an elevator, what the heck is a Sundancer, right? It's a ceremony, right? It's something that people are doing to connect.
it's a ceremony to do and offer prayers. So you put yourself forward to offer prayers for a relative that may be sick and needs some support. You go through a spiritual sacrifice or fasting in favor of other people. You don't drink any water or eat food for 4 days, 4 nights. You do a piercing or an offering of your flesh during the ceremony. You're dancing in the sun for 4 days. So it's a ceremony of prayer. And you start to understand and honor. Same with a vision quest ceremony when you're on a
Yeah.
mountain for 4 days and 4 nights, no food or water. You start to understand what water is. So for me, being able to participate in these ceremonies is a huge honor. That they come from lineages, and these lineages are open to accepting people from around the world to use them in the correct manner. And I think the Western mentality is maybe, okay, well, what can I get out of this? What can I use this for? How can I commercialize this or put some money behind it? When how we should be looking at it is just the gratitude we're able to participate and feel these things, understand, what it's like to go without water for 4 days. So when you see a running tap, instinctively you want to turn that off all the time. Water protector, for me is someone that's, constantly praying for clean water, protecting and helping out people in different situations, different groups that need support. We've done a lot of work here in Antioquia in Colombia and Putumayo region of Colombia, where we've done a lot of conservation work, which is directly supporting certain waterways and showing that they're kept clean. So for me, that's the most important thing, and that's one of the main teachings. I'm sure you've heard it. Water is life. That's a pretty famous slogan that's come out recently in the last few years, and it really is protecting the waterways of the earth. So for me, it's use of water, who's praying for that, who's actively engaging in activities or supporting people that are conserving water.
I love that. You touched about a thing that's also true to my journey in my life is, not only protecting, like we're earth keepers, like the water, you know, protectors, the light, being like all of this is like really important from the perspective of just like earth, like in protecting the earth. And then you said something that I think someone may have missed. They didn't catch it because it's not common to their thought process, but we've been talking about, this is like a post-tribal age, right? This is not where we've been in these tribes and these ancestral spaces where we had generation upon generation. And so we moved out of the tribes. And I've been a big fan of studying shamanism, not just with plant medicines, but with energy medicine. And, I've studied under the lineages and been conferred upon this. And you said it, which really excited me because these protectors of this wisdom, these wisdom keepers, I call them, right?
Mhm.
They are willing to share this with the people that they want us to move this into the West. They want us to do this. And they also want to bring the wisdom teachings down because sometimes with the post-tribal age, and I experienced this with the Shipibo healers in Peru, was the same thing is we're moving this out to teach other people to preserve the wisdom of these teachings, and they're willing to share with us now in this way because they want humanity to evolve in this space. So it's really cool that you said that because I feel grateful to be able to be a part of this as well and learning and certifying and going through my own journey through shamanic training and having this massive amount of gratitude that they're willing to share something that they've had so close to themselves. It's something that they're very open. They like these earth keepers, these wisdom keepers are very open. But so I'm glad that you said that because that's what the experience I've had too, is they're really open to be sharing this wisdom but also to protect it. Like it's so beautiful, this exchange, because they literally have opened the doors to the greater part of humanity. Because in general, for thousands of years, it's been, secured into the places where they were. And so it's kind of this beautiful dance of modern technology or the modern era, but also this is why I love the beauty of it, because we're also putting some levels of modern science into it from other perspectives, like the people that I've learned from with quantum energy and quantum healing. So we're hearing it from the brain we've kind of developed on our side, but this ancient practices have already been there, right? And now they're sharing it. So it's kind of like full circle both ways, almost like you're hearing it the medicine way from like what we call the grandmother way and then the grandfather way. And it's like so nice because it just symbolizes the vortexes. So thanks for bringing that up and moving that forward. Um, I want to talk about healing. What are some, because there's been a lot of commercialization, right, on this new age, especially with the veterans. I definitely want to dig in on this because it's a big piece for me too, that, we finally have some healing things that we can use as tools in our toolbox, especially for veterans, because they've been so underserved with all this traumatic events and the PTSD. But there's been a ton of commercialization and new age branding around plant medicine lately. So what are some of the biggest misconceptions you're seeing or you see, and how do you address them in the work you're doing?
I think first and foremost through education, differentiating between there's different chemical psychedelics which are effectively helping people,
Mhm.
ketamine, MDMA, psilocybin, not in its traditional form, and they're definitely helping people in the clinical setting. And I'm not, I don't come on here to say it's like this or like that, or to disrespect. I say with a lot of respect that maybe someone who's living in a heavy urban environment needs to be in a clinical setting compared to a traditional setting in the middle of the Amazon. Maybe that's what they need. And that's good that we have these options available. But for me, it's more if these plants are going to be used, the actual plant medicine, that they're not taken away again from traditions, from the people that have been protecting them for thousands of years. An example is like in the way that we talk, it's like we need to protect these indigenous people. And it's like, well, not really. Like they've been protecting themselves and taking care of themselves for thousands of years. Like they're okay. We need to take care of them, kind of like they're a little brother, But what we need to do is bring them forward and bring them to basically to the center of decisions that are being made around these plant medicines and let them talk. And also support the protection of the traditions and support them. But for me, it's not about protecting them per se, but they'll take care of themselves. Don't worry about that. But for me, it's a lot around education. It's a lot around, there's some really good work with veterans. They're getting down and they're having plant medicine in places like Mexico and Peru, here in Colombia. But it's educating people around the need to go slow. I think one of the main things, one of the biggest things right now is in the West, we want to speed everything up. So we stumble along onto yoga, meditation. We want to speed it up. We want to like make something out of it. And some of these things you can't do that.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not a product. It's a way of life. It's a spiritual practice that has millennia behind it of people using it. They say ayahuasca has been used for 10,000 years in the Amazon basin. Peyote's been found 4.5, 5,000 years old in Mesoamerica. We've been using psychedelics for forever. But, do we need to capitalize on these? No. What we need to do is we need to take a breath and slow down and see where we're taking it, because the more we're commercializing it, the more we're just doing harm.
It's it rings true too, because it is kind of a little bit of the antithesis of our modern day era, which is like super on demand. Like I got kids and they're 8 and 10, and it's like they don't realize that like you even have to wait for like a commercial to get to the next segment in your TV. It's like I need it now, and there's this nowness to like, oh, I'm injured, I'm hurt, and it's like that art of non-doing and slowing things down to this the divine timing of all things. And I've found that in many areas of my life, not just in this perspective, but it's such a nice, it is how it works. This is why things have been like what I also got especially in Peru, when I was in the Amazon, I was in the Andes last summer, was like, there isn't that rush to get things done and get on your calendar. And I speak a lot to this now, this art of non-doing. And one of my mantras that's been shared with me with one of my spiritual mentors and teachers over the years has been the phrase of push less, allow more. And like, that's kind of what we're talking about here, is just allowing this to just slow down. Like healing is a journey. It's not a destination. And when people go through these journeys, it's almost like who you become in the process, not just the experience. I want to talk a little bit, and we would be remiss if we didn't, about integration and healing and talking to people about it. Like, yes, there's a process to screen. There's a process to find out what medicine is right for you, where you go, how you go. There's obviously doing it right with the journey itself. Very important for me. Like I wanted to do it the traditional route, and that's why I chose it. And we talked about it's not one or the other. It's kind of an and. It's like when you decide. I always agree. I think we talked about it when we first met. Was like when you decide that this is part of your journey and the plants are going to be part of that. It's sort of like that's when they start working. And that's when this divine timing starts. And can you explain to people from your perspective, because I know you're big, this is a big part of who you are and what you're doing, about real integration. What does that look like after participating in a ceremony? Because
Yeah,
to me, all three, the preparation, the journey work, and the integration, to me, are all very, very equally important, a part of the process.
definitely. Some of my elders say the ceremony, begins when you leave the ceremonial space. Your real life is the real ceremony. And the need for integration is huge. A lot of people think they go into a plant medicine ceremony, feel euphoric. They come out, they feel amazing, and they just ride that high. And they're like, everything's good. And 2 weeks go past, and then all of a sudden the honeymoon period's over, and there's a big dramatic drop in everything. Integration is so important. Think about, like, okay, in the jungle, what's integration? Integration is just being in nature. It's just working and doing hunting, fishing, weaving, planting food, building, construction, other forms of ceremony. So, like, that continues to happen. It's like a way of life. So, indigenous people have always, or of the Americas, have always had that down pat in terms of just
Yep.
it's happening. So you're able to find the answers that you need, or things in ceremony that may have been a little, like, left, unanswered, or open ends, weren't kind of like tied up. You can find those answers in an integration phase. Now, if you have a spiritual experience in a natural environment, then you need to continue your integration phase in a natural environment, because that's your natural environment. As a human being, we're part of nature. So you can't expect to go from a large city, down to the jungle, decompress, do this medicine work, come back, and like everything's magically going to change. You've got to put the work in and do some serious changes in the way you're living. And that is a reconnection to nature. I find one of the main problems with mental health is a lack of connection with nature. Go sit in the sun. Like, why are we so afraid of the sun? Like, it's going to burn us. It's this, it's that. It's like the sun is there. It's giving us energy. If you respect it and use it the right way, it's going to heal you. If we walk on the earth, if you go swim in a river, go camping, light a fire, plant some food. Even if you live in a city, I'm sure you have a balcony where you can plant one plant, and maintain a connection to some form of nature. So integration is coming back and staying connected to the spiritual technologies of the earth.
And that's a huge piece, like Mother Earth. You don't need to be absorbed into the Amazon to experience nature, right? There's a reason these elements are vital for life: water, sunlight, vitamin D, like all of it, like grounding in the earth. Like, so you can, and breath, like we're breathing, we have to breathe, right? So it's like we can understand, but when you're doing it with intention, right? You're doing it with, so integration is integrating your experience, of course, and how does it unfold into your reality. I'm still we're always integrating, right? You're moving through that process. And so I think that's a key here. If people didn't realize, it's not just, oh, get out in nature. I just tell people, go for a walk in nature, but don't grab this and start scrolling. That's not what we're talking about. Like, but that's what people think. Like, it's almost automatic. Like, oh, I'm just going to go for a walk. And then all of a sudden no, I'm connecting. I'm literally, I try to do grounding every morning. I'm always trying to do something in nature. And what the beauty, I think, is when, if you screen and you do the proper harm reduction, and plant medicines are good for you and you think it's going to be good for your journey, and then you go do it, it's like you can't not be connected into nature. And it just sort of becomes the process for me. It becomes the process for people. And then you can also just keep it simple and say, all right, when you go on vacation, you generally go to the mountains or the beach, right? And there's a reason for that, because not because it looks right, it's because you feel connected, you feel less stressed, right? It's automatic. Like, there's nothing you have to really do to connect with nature except to unplug from the things that don't connect you to nature, right? That's pretty much it. Sit with yourself, close your eyes, and just appreciate, love, talk to nature. It's so very therapeutic. So thank you for putting like that at the very forefront, especially as we're, we know mental health and mental illnesses and anxiety and depression and all, we know that these things are on the rise, right? And we also know that, if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably also agree that medications aren't the only way to help. I feel like they just mask the symptom. In fact, they say in exercise, like movement, getting out in nature, these are things that are actually therapeutic, not just nice things to do. Like we're actually moving to therapeutics here. So I love lifestyle medicine. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything to go outside and connect with nature at all. And if you don't believe the science, just check out where blue zones are. Yeah. And why people live to 100 more often than not. One of the biggest things is community and connection not only with themselves, with other people, community, right? Tribe, connection with your environment. That's what we're talking about in nature. And then connection to spirit, which is also part of that component, So thank you for bringing that up.
Just if I can add something on that.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, what do you want to add on that? There's a lot of stuff in there.
I find also with integration it's the responsibility of someone. You've had an experience with plant medicine. You've been in a traditional setting. The healers have worked on you. They've cleared your energetic field. They've given you like a cleanse, like an energetic cleanse. You're feeling amazing. You've purged all these things out. It's like, well, what are you going to do with it? How can then you've used this plant, the plant's given its life, so that you could ingest it, take it, eat it, drink it. How are you then going to use that going forward in your life? Like what positivity are you going to bring into life? And also, when we're doing integration correctly, we're preserving or we're contributing to the sustainability of plant medicine. We're not running back every 5 minutes. That's not to say that you can't, let's say, study plants, because there are people, especially within indigenous groups in the Americas, who are consistently having plant medicine, but it becomes a study. They're studying the medicine to understand better life, to be better at life. So the whole objective is it's not about how many things you can see and getting kind of addicted to like being in a visionary state or being in this euphoric state. It's how can I use this responsibly to then be better at life?
Well, to me, that's the essence of all of this. True healing is really how do you become the best version of yourself to help not only protect, the plants and the environment, like to help what's your role in humanity? What's your role in up leveling our existence as a group, as a collective, moving in that space. And I think the opposite of that is pretty critical because you've been working with veterans and you've been working directly with some really cool groups and really doing good work. So thank you, by the way. I'm working a lot with Joe Dispenza's work. We're doing some stuff with other like non-plant medicine activities and plant medicine activities because we know that we get a 70 to 80% cure rate on these conditions that have been treatment refractive. In other words, medications and talk therapy didn't even work. And now we're getting to places where people are healing. So this work is really important. And there's a lot of people doing it wrong. There's a lot of abuse. I've heard of stories and I've been in rooms where people are working with veterans because they had a negative experience where they were sent to Mexico, did a lot of iboga or whatever they did, and then they just shoved it, like they almost didn't integrate them. They just went back into humanity. There was no process there. So I'm very grateful to be part of this tribe of collective people that are really putting this effort on it in a way that's very heart-centered and sacred. So thank you for bringing that up. It's just the more like it's kind of like the more that this is unfolding in the modern era, we're starting to see the what I don't want to call it the humanistic side, but the modern day side where it just started like what. I've been seeing and hearing things that just, and maybe it's just not my nature because I've got like love on my bottle. Like, this is what I do, right? And so it's just nice to hear and being refreshed that like people like you and I are like really here to do it the right way and with purpose, not for intention of, well, I do this as this is my job, right? This is no, it's a calling. This is something we're called to do. So let's talk a little bit more about, just the work you're doing, right? The work you're doing, you move back, you're establishing yourself back in, Colombia, working your way back into this process to help other people. Um, and I'm curious a little bit because you talked to me a little bit about your work on Substack and the way of life. Tell us a little bit about what inspired you to start sharing your insights.
Actually had a dream one night, and I woke up about 2 in the morning, and there's a voice that just told me to do Substack, and I'd never heard of it. I had to Google it and find out what it was.
This happens, by the way, to a lot of people in my circles. It's like when people say I got a download or I had a dream. So it makes me laugh only because I know, like, it just somebody said it and I had to do it and look what happened. So it just it happens, right?
It does.
It wasn't like it was a full on like experience, and you're like, I didn't even know what Substack was, and I had to do it. So tell us a little bit about that, how that transpired.
Yeah, so I Googled Substack and understood it was like a writing platform and podcasts and everything. And I just thought about what I was seeing in Australia at the time in the psychedelic scene, and a lot of unqualified people using plant medicine in not the right ways. And then a lot of people that were kind of lost, and this gap that we've kind of created in modern society where we seek out mentors or coaches, but in ancestral ways of living, we always have elders. So
Yeah.
it's not a bad thing. I think coaches get like a bad rap. The word coach, it's kind of a loaded word, but in an ancestral community, you would go and seek counsel from the elders. They would help you, understand or interpret things, or, maybe process difficult situations. So for me, it was being able to be a bridge, basically, just being a bridge to allow elders to come on and be interviewed and talk to them about how they live their lives. Like, how do they stay connected to nature? Talk about different ways of living, plant medicine. And I recently interviewed a Kofan elder from Ecuador, and he raised some really good points about plant medicine, that people think that they, drink medicine 2 or 3 times, or like, yeah, the medicine told me that I need to serve it. I need to be, like a healer. And that's a common thing I've seen a lot, where people are doing short courses or having small amounts of plant medicine, thinking they can just drop into that realm, offer it to other people. And he made a very good point where he was like, that may well happen. The medicine may tell you that, but that might be just a test from the medicine that you weren't aware of. It's just testing you. It's just seeing who you really are. So it's this kind of like knowledge and information that, my mission right now with the way of life is to broadcast that, to bring awareness to these people and these indigenous groups, and also help people that are, stuck and just need a virtual word of support or advice or something that they can bring into their daily way of living.
Mm. That's a great story, by the way. I know, actually, it's funny because I pulled an oracle card this morning, actually, and there's a lot of transformation going on in my life. One is just going all in on wellness and releasing the retail prescription business and just moving in on wellness and healing and doing these things. And it's like there's a lot going on. And I pulled a card, and it was the journey card, and it was upside down. So I read, what's the medicine I'm supposed to learn here? And it was really similar to what you said. It was like the journey has been revealed, but it may not be the right timing. Like, you still have things you need to take care of in order to move through it, and don't misinterpret, right? That's what, like, that was what you were saying. Don't misinterpret the journey right now, because there's things you need to do in order to not just think about the journey and where you're going. What are you doing right now? And it was just really similar when you said maybe that's a test, the medicine testing you, because in my mind, it's not this linear approach to how the world or the universe unfolds for you. It's like it's multidimensional and it can go in many different directions. However, there's not this like, oh, you just got to do that, that, and that. It's like one thing unfolds to the other, and just it was that perfect reminder of the slow down we talked about, right? Of me, I know like I have this awesome North Star, I love it, and it's like, but dude, it may not be the right time. So let's slow down. Let's just I love contemplation right now. It's a big thing for me to just sit and contemplate. It's a form of meditation for me, but it's really just contemplating on that whole process. So I love that little story about like, yeah, I'm called to do the medicine, so now I'm going to take a 3-month course and I'm going to get here, go here, and it's like maybe not, maybe not. So I love that little ditty you gave us. So how do people get on the platform for Substack, and how do they find the way of life? Because I think this is important. The stuff you're doing is great, and I can't wait to dive into, because part of what my journey is to learn as much as I can from these elders while they're still here, because what I and why I think they're not just trying to preserve this is part of who they are as elders. You impart your wisdom, and they're doing this in awesome cool ways, and now you're doing it digitally. So how do people find your Substack?
Yeah, so if you just go on substack.com and look up The Way of Life,
Okay,
you'll,
that simple.
you can find it, and it's free. Subscribe for free, or you can be a paid member if you like, but all my content with the elders is free.
That's beautiful. I love that. I've been studying tribal shamanism, post-tribal shamanism from many years, and it's just there's always these common threads and themes, but there's such a nice nuance of how others, because they've all learned it in some interesting way in their place, right? We talked about that earlier, right? And so it's really just a beautiful way to impart wisdom and to learn these things that are it's almost like I turned 50 this year, and over my journey I'm 49, and I've gone through this massive like change in my life, but really good change. It's like, oh, I've done all the science and wellness, I've gone all the analytical and the like, and now it's like coming all four circles. Like you're moving from here to here and you're connecting the two, but it's kind of like this awakening is like, oh, I only kind of had half. I kind of done half of where I'm supposed to learn by now, which is kind of fun because I feel like I'm only halfway there or more. So I love that we can connect on these ways. How do your listeners support this conservation of sacred plants in the communities? You've got the little, if they choose to do the paid, channels or things like that, but like what can just anyone do, you know?
I think the most important thing to do is educate yourself. If you're going to have plant medicine, really investigate who's offering the medicine, where does it come from, what tradition, what lineage, what elders are they supporting. There's different organizations out there which you can research that are supporting directly the conservation of plant medicine. But it's really about educating yourself and understanding that this is someone's culture, this is someone's way of life, and we can be a part of it. We can step in and heal ourselves and learn, but we need to be very aware of the necessity to support and protect these ways of life. Because if we don't, they're not going to be there for a long time.
Yeah, I think that's a huge piece of I think conservation is not the word I'm looking for, but it's the essence of, right? It's moving because, you have this experience and you do it directly. And what I think people don't understand, it's not like shaman goes to work and then he gets paid and then he builds a house. Like it goes back to the communities. It goes in, and it's like this beautiful new, different version than I've been used to till I started learning this, of like this pay it forward process.
Mm.
And it's just so nice because it feels good all the way through. And that's when I know it's a really big thing. I'm curious, just for my particular perspective, but like, is there a particular teaching or experience outside, like not just like your plant medicine journeys, but like that's had a profound shape on your path? someone that you've directly worked with, or like, I'm just curious because we all kind of are connected in these spaces, and we have the people that it's kind of like, who's the real guy, you know?
I remember I was at a Sundance ceremony here in Colombia, and there was an elder, he was a Dakota elder, came down and he was leading the Sundance, and he was his late 70s, and in front of the whole Sundance community, which was about 350, 400 people, he kind of started telling the story of how he was a Vietnam vet and how he went to Vietnam and came back and, you know, had to learn his language and start learning more of the ceremonial ways of life. For me at the time, I think that, you know, when we move into these, like, let's say spaces of light or, you know, spiritual practices, some of us have, or majority of us, I think all of us have some darkness, you know, in our lives, which is a part of us. And for me, you know, I had this kind of guilt, like, oh, but I was a soldier, you know, I was at war. And hearing this elder say the same thing of like, I was in Vietnam, you know, but I'm doing this work now. It kind of just something clicked inside of me, like it's okay. And it was that forgiving yourself and understanding like we all make mistakes. And the beauty of these paths is that we have a new day. Every day is a new day, and we have the opportunity to do good, you know, and the creator loves us either way, you know, like it's unconditional love. It's not conditional. And the creator spirit is always there to protect us, guide us. A lot of us carry shame and resentment and guilt and anger and fear and frustration. It's our choice if we want to keep holding that, or at any moment we can just let it go and start a new day. The sun rises, it's a new day, it's a new opportunity to start again and be better.
I love that. One of my favorite songs to inspire me is Max Frost's Good Morning. And the phrase is like, today is the first day of the rest of your life, right? You wake up every morning and it's literally the beginning of the rest of your life. Every single day you get to move through that. And I think that's a really important piece here is, you know, these plant medicines, these other ways, like you can talk breath work and holotropic breath work and sound healing and meditation. There's so many different ways that we can unlock this letting go, this like release of all these things, because that's really what it is. These are tools to allow us to do what we do. And there's this beautiful, like, I almost look, it's like I've spoken to this on this podcast, but there's kind of like this Venn diagram. It's like, you have the healer, you have the medicine, and then you have you. And like right in the middle is where the magic is, because they're all playing a part. The healer isn't just healing you, and the medicine, and you're not just a participant in just the ceremony. It's like all of it comes together to allow us to unlock the things we're supposed to do in ourselves, right? This is why they connect with nature, because it's just good medicine for our humanity, right? It's like, oh, it automatically connects you. It's like a shortcut. Like you don't have to worry about, because it's going to happen, right? You're going to connect with nature if you allow it to. And I love that part that you just said, like, you know, it is our choice whether we want to hold on to this stuff forever or whether we want to release it. And what I think in my own journey is like, when you make that decision, like, you know, it's kind of like the same thing when you go on, I call it, for me, it's the second mountain of life. I had all the success in the world and all the outside stuff. And then all of a sudden you get to this time in your life where you're like, is this it? Is this all I'm going to have? Like, what is my purpose here? I'm sick and tired of feeling sick and tired. And then all of a sudden you make this real decision. And that decision really is with yourself, I think, right? It's not like I'm mad, but like when you get to the courage and you get up to that space, it becomes, and when you hang around these circles enough, it really is all about unconditional love. That's what we're here on this planet to experience. And that's my ultimate intention to become. Like, I want to love unconditionally all the time. Like, that's my version of enlightenment and getting up to that space, because we get to serve at our highest levels. My friend always tells me, he keeps reframing. He says, Josh, you get to do these things. It's not I need to. It's like, no, I get to go on this journey. I get to keep releasing and surrendering to the moment, to the present moment, and releasing these things, holding on to this stuff that's trapped in there, you know, PTSD and any kind of, you know, trauma or experience doesn't have to be labeled as a trauma, but any of these experiences, like we get to move through them now. Like the path forward is through. And thank you for, reframing that for people, because I think we all have this innate ability inside us to do it. And I think these tools they're really just what they are. They're tools.
Yeah, and believing in yourself every day. Wake up and form a connection, a prayer. A prayer is a word that's kind of thrown around and can have like a religious stigma about it, but prayer is just, it's a connection each day, and pray for your life, pray for your relatives, pray for the earth, pray for the environment around you. And the more you do that, the more connected you get, and the more you understand that you are the ship navigating where your reality is going.
I love it. I have to put this in, and I hope you appreciate it. Like, as we were recording this and as we're talking about water protector, right? I live in North Carolina, and there's a lot of wildfires right now. In Asheville, thousands of acres are burning. And literally, as we're doing this, talking about water protection and water, it literally downpoured. Well, I'm talking to a water protector, and we're talking about this vibe, and I had such this concern. I'm driving out of Asheville the other day, and you can smell it and see it. It's like, and then it started sprinkling rain. I was just so grateful and like thanking Mama, Mother Earth, like, thank you for a little bit of this rain. And it literally just downpoured. And I'm just sitting here smiling, like, thank you, Bobby. Like, thank you. Like we just put some like good in, like this water just did a whole lot of good for my earth and my not mine, but like the place that's sacred to me. So I thought you'd enjoy that, because that was pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So I don't know. Is there anything else, like as we wrap this stuff up? We know where people can go to learn more about this. What about the stuff what's coming up next for you?
I'm doing more integration work online, so you can find me on Instagram, Bobby
Oh,
K.
so you do some interviews. So people need to find out more about this, especially with veterans. I think is super key, because it's so good to have this like versus like attracts like, right?
Yeah,
And you've been there, so you have this ultimate empathetic connection to helping others in the way and manner in which you can. For me, I'm a cancer survivor, and for some reason, as I move through my journey and moving into energy and plant medicines and all these other places, I'm finding all these cancer patients and cancer warriors just starting to fall into place, because I feel like I'm here to help that. And I think people can really be served well through, especially with veterans on the integration space. So they can find you and you connect with them on Instagram, right?
yeah, I do integration with anyone that
Right.
needs.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, yeah, on the ground here in Colombia, yeah, working on some things for future kind of retreats with veterans, and yeah, just supporting the elders and continuing on with the Substack. That's kind of where I'm at the moment, just kind of anchoring back into being in the beautiful land of Colombia.
I love it. I can't wait. I'm moving down the Americas, Chile, Colombia. I've been getting the breadcrumbs. Like, you got to go there now. These are the places you need to go. So I'm sure we'll be hanging out relatively soon. Part of me really wants to journey the world and learn from these amazing elders and these places, because they are to me so very sacred, and we've lost that connection. So connection to nature, we talked a lot about that. Like, there's different ways in order to heal and grow and doing it right. And I'm glad that we have these earth keepers and the water protectors in our world in this modern day. Like, so good. So thank you so much for what you're doing. It's such a pleasure and honor to be in the same room with people that are just, the way I say is just, they're doing it right. Right. We're doing it with intention and purpose. And I think from my perspective, it's all about intention and ethics
Hmm.
and working it from that perspective. So Bobby, thank you so much for all you're doing. I'm really grateful for our new connections and friendships, and I can't wait to help um, help cross refer people so we can just keep moving in this place and healing the world, one person at a time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Josh. Pleasure to be on here and to share a bit.
Amazing. Another amazing episode. I love this one. Thank you so much, guys. Until next time, stay well. Thanks for joining me today on Beyond the Pills. If our mission to deprescribe 10 million unnecessary medications resonates with you, share this episode, subscribe, and leave a review. Whether you're a practitioner or someone ready to reclaim your health, visit rx2wellness.com for free resources to begin your journey. Together, let's go beyond the pills and co-create a world of vibrant health and true healing. Until next time, live better and stay well.